Welcome to Gloria's Gab Live. I have with me today June Morris, and June Morris is an incredible woman who is a playwright now, and we're going to learn all about her play and all the other things you're doing because you are so involved in the community right now. But before we start, we have to thank South Florida PBS. South Florida PBS sponsors us week after week. They have season 2 of Marie Antoinette coming up, so that's very exciting for all of you who enjoyed the first season. And if you're a member, and I'm sure you are,
Yes.
we get one of these once a month, and it tells us all the exciting things that are happening from their health channel to programming for children, and until the end of this month, we have the Da Vinci Immersive Art Experience. If you and Alan haven't gone yet, this is like an amazing experience that
I've been to many of those immersive experiences,
and
they're wonderful.
this is exceptional.
Yeah.
I've heard about the other ones, but they say this is like one of the best ever. So don't miss it. It's in Boynton Beach, and it's worth the drive. So let's start. We have coming up big event that you're doing. So tell us about the play that you wrote.
This is the month. It's finally here. I've been working on it for years. It's called Greetings from Paradise. And it's really a story that has been on my heart for many years, a story that I heard directly from my grandmother's lips about how she came down on the train on Henry Flagler's East Coast Railroad back in 1924 to meet up with a man that she met one time at a party, at a dance back in Indianapolis.
Get out.
And yes, and she was all of 19 years old and he was 27, but they had been corresponding. She was 18 years old when she met him for a year, and he would send her postcards, and many of the postcards would say things like Greetings from Paradise. So that's where the name comes from. And he lured her down. She managed to convince her mother that it was a marriage proposal, because why else in 1924 would a decent man send a young woman a train ticket? And she got down there, and he was a little bit surprised by that, but he did marry her. Lucky for me.
Yeah.
He married her, or I wouldn't be here today. And together they had a very adventurous life, riding out the great Florida land boom of 1925, and then the bust just 1 year later, followed by the hurricane of September 1926. And so that story has always just really intrigued me. And there's been so many books written about it. I think I even have a picture of me posing with all the books that I've read.
Yeah, I think we have that in there.
So
Alex,
there have been a lot of academic works, but I wanted to bring history to life. And I come from a visual background as a television news reporter. And so I think visually and I write visually. I always had to write visually for television. And so this was a very fun project that I took on during the pandemic of 2020. And I read all the books, I did all that research, and put together first a screenplay. And then I took a nugget out of that and expanded upon the story of Coral Gables and presented it to the city. And they have created a marquee event for the city's centennial celebration of my play premiering at Miracle Theater. And it's premiering on April 29th, which is the day that the city was incorporated exactly 100 years ago. So it's been so much fun.
Oh, and what a great addition to the centennial celebration too.
Yeah.
Because right after that they have a gala dinner. So
yes,
it's quite
that
an
particular
evening.
night.
Right.
It's combined with the Coral Gables Chambers Centennial.
Oh, it's the Chambers.
Yes. Well, the play is for the city centennial, but the chamber, it was Mark Trowbridge's idea.
Right.
It was entirely his idea.
Yeah.
And he was actually going to have a surprise role in the play. But it was his idea to turn that into a magnificent opening night event with a VIP cocktail party before the show, and then a dinner out there on Miracle Mile following the show, and everybody dressed like the 1920s. So
exactly.
If you can come, please come, because that's going to,
well, tell me,
only happens once in 100 years.
I was going to say, but are there still tickets available?
Oh, yes. And you go through the chamber. I know I have, yes, you see those QR codes right there. The first one takes you to the Chamber of Commerce's website, and that's where you'll find the tickets for that. There are single tickets just to go to the play, and then there are single tickets for the entire evening, and also for buying tables. And you see it begins at 5 o'clock and goes throughout the evening. We're going to have a little Q&A after the play because there's so much to learn about Florida and Coral Gables history that's just fascinating. And you can't fit it all in a play.
No, there's no way. You're
and then
right.
For the rest of the evenings, there's the QR code down below for Wednesday through Saturday. And then you buy the tickets through Actress Playhouse.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So I have a conflict that night, so I'm probably going to go to the show later.
That's too bad because you would look
right.
fabulous in a flapper dress. And you probably have a couple.
Actually, your mom and I both got honored at an event, the Centennial of the Coral Gables Women's Club. Okay. And I had a dress to wear because I was going to wear the same dress.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your mom does too.
You know, I'm not sure about her. I'm going to check her closet to make sure she has something really special for that evening. But I just bought a flapper dress on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
For $41. And I can't believe how beautiful it looks. So, and I've seen others out there.
Is it white?
No, it's not. No, it's white. Why?
No, because I think I got white. I got one. I'm sure I got it online.
I think it came in that color too. It came in like 8 different colors. So
mine was white.
Yeah. This is a good.
I'm going to go through my Centennial for the Women's Club and check out to see what your mom was wearing that night.
Yeah.
So
I'll make sure. Especially, I know that she's got a headband of some sort, but I'm going to check it out and make sure. Yeah, she's looking her best that evening.
Oh yeah. Well, she always looks great.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we got other stuff going on though, aside from this.
Well, this is all about promoting the play. Right. And this Sunday coming up on April 6th. Mm-hmm. I don't know when this airs, but
no, it'll be up later today.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So on this next Sunday, April 6th at 4:30 at Merrick House on Coral Way, we're doing our very last 100 Voices, Yesteryear Stories of Coral Gables. And my subject is going to be on fortunes gained and lost, Miami's visionaries and their fatal passion to create. And that's one of the stories that I found along the way that is hinted at in this play. But all of these things I want to talk more about, and I can't do it all in one scoop. So, but we have
maybe you need a series.
A series, I know, Netflix series.
There you go.
Do you know anyone? So, but there's Henry Flagler and Carl Fisher and George Merrick, and these are all men who have this tremendous passion to create, and but then really didn't know where to stop, which is the problem with a lot of very successful men, I would say. I can't find stories among women. Apparently women know when to quit.
I'm thinking Eunice probably knew when to quit.
Oh, yes. And she was probably screaming that in George Merrick's ear.
Yeah, and he wasn't listening.
Somehow I believe that actually is true. So, but yes, like George Merrick, the Merrick family that came down from Pennsylvania for health reasons and bought this land sight unseen. And there's a picture of George Merrick right there at his peak of youth. Yeah. And so George and his father built this very successful plantation with all these vegetables, and George took it over. He was a born businessman and turned it into a very successful farm. And he could have lived out the rest of his life with Eunice, just enjoying his life and his wealth, but that wasn't enough. He saw the planned city of Winter Park, and very inspired by the City Beautiful movement that was happening at that time, at the turn of the last century. And he had this idea that he was going to create this perfect city, this utopia, where there would be so much beauty around that people would all get along, and they would never fight, which of course we see has magically happened here in Coral Gables, because no one in Coral Gables fights, right? No, everyone gets along.
Never happened.
So good for you, George. So, but then he could have stopped at the height of Coral Gables, and when the market there was a downturn in the market.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we had 1925. It happened very, very quickly. Dips in the stock market and other things happening. A freight embargo, then a steamship embargo. Lots of things happening, and investors were starting to get cold feet. But instead of pulling back, or he was at one point he was $40 million in those days.
Can you imagine what that is? $billion.
Right. He was one of the wealthiest men in America, and at the end of the collapse, he was, or at the time that he passed away, or no, end of the collapse, he was $75 million in debt.
Oh, wow.
Because he was a paper millionaire. There are lots of paper millionaires back then and today.
Yeah.
So, but had he stopped, he would have been fine and lived out the rest of his days in beautiful Coral Gables. He built the Biltmore Hotel in 9 months.
Which is
2,000 homes, 2,000 spec homes in 2 years. He built a lot of structures around town that we love and protect today.
Right.
But he doubled down. And he had this amazing opening at the Biltmore Hotel. We have a shot of that too.
Oh, yes.
Of opening night, everyone in their tuxedos and their gowns. And by the way, champagne was flowing that night. Nobody paid attention to Prohibition down here, South Florida. All the best hotels and resorts in celebrations like this were just openly serving spirits. That's what was served back then. A lot of rum from the Bahamas and so forth like that. Yeah. So 1,500 people for a sit-down dinner, and he sent trains up to New York to bring people down for this, investors and so forth. And then continued on to buying the Deering estate and creating Tahiti Beach. And he had even more grand plans. And then the hurricane came in September of that year and blew it all apart. And then that was enough. He and his wife went down to the Keys and tried to create something down there. And another hurricane in 1935 came through and wiped that out. That plus the Great Depression. And at the very end of the day, he was a postmaster, which was a good job. And but certainly a far
cry
from where he was at the height of his wealth.
Yeah.
And the same, I have another story about coral fishes. So we're going to talk about that this Sunday at Merrick House. It's a fun discussion.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the stories that's come out of this. Another one is the parallels between 1925 and today. We think everything's happening so rapidly right now with artificial intelligence and technology just marching forward, and none of us can keep up. But back in the turn of the last century, in the late 1800s and up until the 1920s, that was in the industrial age and the age of invention. And it was the end of World War I, too, where people were so weary of old morals and standards, the Victorian way of living, and they wanted to have fun, and they had all this new stuff, and consumerism was on the rise. And so it was one of those eras where you really couldn't keep up with all the changes. Right. And down in South Florida, we had a reputation as being naughtier than California. You don't hear about that.
Hard to believe, huh?
I know. When you think about the Roaring '20s, you think about actually Chicago or New York.
Oh, Chicago, yeah.
But it was raunchy down here because there was no old society. People came down. Right. Everybody was new. Mm-hmm. And at this point, everybody was new from Indiana and Ohio, New York and New Jersey, the Midwest and the Northeast, places like that. The Latino influence didn't come till later. Yeah. And they were coming off the farms in the small cities, and they were ready to kick up their heels. And there's a lot of drinking going on. The women were, the hemlines were coming up, and the red lipstick was going on, and newfound freedoms and the right to vote. And it's just like today. It's just different issues, different things going on.
But cultural changes.
Always. I mean, we're always in flux. Society is in flux. Yeah. The world is in flux always. What we think is so as we consider ourselves at the height of evolution now, but we're just a point on the continuum. And it's fun to look at history that way.
Absolutely. And you learn so much from history.
Oh, you do.
Yes. Yeah. So, but your grandparents, that's such a great story.
It's a wonderful story.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who would think? And she was brave. Right. To think, just from letters. I mean, now people text. Maybe the same thing happens when you date online. It's kind of the same thing.
You think about how people wrote letters back then.
Oh, they were great letters.
It was much more than a text. And so
I had boyfriends that would write me letters every day.
Oh, wow.
And, pages. When I'd go on a trip, I would get pages.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah. And
these letters you'd read over and over again and look for the nuances, and you'd share. She probably read them out loud to her mother. And so with a year going by, I'm sure she felt quite safe that she knew this guy. But still, she was 19 and setting off. And if you look at the railroad coming from Indianapolis, it wasn't a straight shot. She was getting, I followed the track at that time with the railroad. I looked at the map back then, and she was getting on and off all these trains to get down to Miami. And Miami at that time is not the Miami we know today. It was this dusty, dirty place that was just being built up
Right.
at that time.
Yeah.
The rivets and they were going off, all the buildings were going up, lots of construction, but it was not, it was paradise in the making. It didn't quite match the postcards
Yeah, right.
that she was receiving of the pristine white beaches and
Because postcards were like
they were meant to bring you down.
Exactly.
And then you get here but
like, this is what we anticipate.
Yeah. And a lot of people left after that hurricane because no one understood what a hurricane was. Just before that big storm came through in 1926, that was a real estate disaster hurricane. It really leveled a lot of Miami. There were a couple of storms, big storms, and that's what they thought a hurricane was. When they heard it, and they actually were advertising it as another storm system, another tropical storm coming through.
Oh, they didn't.
And nobody understood what was really coming. They'd never experienced it before, and they didn't know what the eye of a hurricane was.
Oh, so people went out.
That's when the deaths occurred. Because people, it's over now. Sorry, it's over. We can go outside. And then on the other end, and the police are out there with their megaphones or whatever, telling people to get back inside, and people weren't paying attention. And then when after an eye of a hurricane, the storm comes back very strong and swiftly, and that's when a lot of lives were lost. And so after that, a lot of people left town.
Do you remember how many lives were lost in that hurricane?
You know, the count was 800.
But you think it was more?
I know it was more because
like Andrew?
I will say something like, I learned a lot about Black history, Black Miami history, which is in the screenplay, but not in this play, unfortunately. There's just too much going on.
Right.
But it's something where I want to talk about that at another time beyond the play, because it's so dramatic. And at that time, Overtown was called something else, which I don't like to say those words, but anyway, it was called something else. And those homes, of course, are made of wood, and it was leveled. And there were a lot of deaths there, but their deaths were not counted.
Oh, okay.
And then the men there who were trying to find their families and clean up were hauled onto buses and taken downtown to get the yachts off of Biscayne Boulevard, things like that, the ships, because they all came gone down with a big surge.
Yeah.
So there's a remarkable history there, and there's just so much. You know, I hope really when people see this play, and I hope everyone comes, that it'll inspire them to want to know more. Yeah. Because I started with just my grandparents' story.
Well, you have to come back again, and we'll do another show, and it'll be about all the other stuff.
Oh, yes. I hope so.
That we couldn't cover today, right?
So you told me, you said, bring your book today. I said, a book?
She hasn't written a book yet.
But that's next.
But that's next. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, but you're doing this, but this is not all you do.
No.
Now, the last time the only time I've ever been to your house was for a big event you did for Coral Gables High School.
Yes.
So you're huge involved in that. So tell me, with the Alumni Association?
Yes, and that just happened organically. I graduated from Coral Gables High School in 1979, and I left. I had a television news career that took me out west for a good 30 years, and I came home again, and I walked on the campus, and I just couldn't believe the dilapidated state. And so, because I'm a video producer, I also am a video producer now too. Yeah. I did a little video and I put it online, and it incensed a lot of people both ways. Some students were very angry, and I had some people calling me and telling me to take the video down, and others saying, "Don't you dare take it down." And so then I was asked to open my doors to see who wanted to come in and try to help this public school. In the city, beautiful. We should have a beautiful traditional public high school, free high school. So about 40 people came in, and those 40 people are still largely involved. And we've helped talk to the school board and our representative, Mary Terry Rojas, about the needs of the school. And through the general obligation bond, the state's general obligation bond, the school board has increased what they're putting into Gables High from $11 million to nearly $52 million now.
That's enormous.
Yeah, it's incredible. And even we learned recently they're going to tear down the old gym and build a state-of-the-art gym.
Oh, really? And
we're going to have a huge celebration of the school's 75th anniversary this year on October 24th. And if anyone is either an alumni of or alumnus of Coral Gables High School, or a parent or a parent of young children, you hope that we can go to Gables High, or just you live in the community, you're kind of curious about the school to see the inside. Mm-hmm. we're going to have a huge pep rally that night. And then in the interior quad, brand new quad, they tore down the buildings. Some buildings could not be saved.
Yeah,
they're
I
in such
believe
bad
that.
shape.
Yeah,
but they created this interior courtyard, which is beautiful. And we're going to have a walk through the decades, and we're going to have music from all the different decades, and just have a really great time with food trucks. And so that evening, starting at 6 o'clock on October 24th.
Now, is that going to be a fundraiser?
It's not.
No, it's not.
We're going to put posters out, and we're going to talk about
opportunities for people to invest in the school.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to tell them what's going on, but it's free to attend. Yeah. We want to celebrate the school and celebrate its legacy, and we want it to be open to everyone. We're so proud of this school. The academics, it's a grade A school.
Right.
I think most of our schools, if not all of our schools in Coral Gables, are grade A schools. Mm-hmm. We've got something very, very special here. Despite all the cuts in funding for public school education, despite it all, Coral Gables continues to have outstanding schools.
They have a great culinary program.
Oh, yes, they do.
And then you have the
International Baccalaureate. International Baccalaureate. We have 6 academies, including that culinary school, which has won national awards.
Yes.
And we actually have a magnet program as well. And every year we take out a full-page ad that celebrates all of the graduating seniors and the top schools they're going to. And every year we have seniors going to Harvard, Yale, MIT, Duke, University of Florida.
Come on.
Every year. And their parents are able to save all that money for college.
Right.
The academics are there.
Are you
I'm
a
Gator?
I thought so too. Yeah.
Are you a Gator?
Hello. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm a Gator. That's where everybody went.
My dad was a Bull Gator. He was one of the first Bull Gators.
What's a Bull Gator?
Did you ever go to football games?
Yes.
Okay.
The Bulldogs. Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia. Okay. But no, a Bull Gator is somebody that gives them a lot of money.
Oh,
and at one time there were so few of them that for over a decade they had the pictures of the Bull Gators in the football program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So and they have the Golden Canes, same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And then at FSU they have the ones the Seminole. But they have a coat that they wear and whatever. It's
Iron Arrow. No, that's University of Miami.
That's okay. Iron Arrow. Okay.
Society.
Yeah, and then every major university probably has something that they do for major donors.
Well, the University of Florida is so beautiful now.
Oh, isn't it though? Yeah.
It should look like that way when I went to school there. Now all the flower beds but it's a beautiful campus.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So, and in March Madness, we could, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Have you been watching any?
No. I'm not a big sports fan right now. It just seems like I'm just asleep. I'm eating and sleeping and dreaming greetings from paradise.
Yeah, right.
That's all I'm doing right now because we're in the month of April.
And it's
crunch time. Now is the fun time where I met just yesterday with a set designer and the costume designer and the technical director. And one cool thing that we're doing is we're using a lot of multimedia. So I did a lot of research finding so much old video of Coral Gables and Miami in the 1920s. And even after the hurricane, some shots that I'm sure no one's ever seen.
Really?
And then the still photos. I checked the Wolfson Archives is wonderful, but so is FIU's digital library and History Miami. I went through it all. I've seen every photo taken in the 1920s down here. So I've gathered it all, and we're creating this set. So it's a minimalist set with the focus being on the storyline, but also a huge screen that's going to bring, so everything's on color on the stage, but we're keeping it in black and white in the photos. We could colorize, we're keeping it black and white. So it's like
to make it more authentic.
History coming alive.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's one of the most wonderful things, and it gives me chills to think about it. The amount of thought that's going into this. It started with my writing, but now to be with now it's finally my time to be building the set and talking about things like that, and the creative juices that go into any sort of live performance is really amazing. And the actors, I have so much new respect for actors to see what they go through and creating the characters. It's not easy to create a character as like George Merrick is our city's founder.
Yeah.
Or Doc Dammers, who has a lot of people have a he has a big following even today, Doc Dammers. And
Oh, yeah, right.
people really don't know who he was. He's quite a mysterious guy. But to bring these, there he is. There's Doc Dammers right there.
Yeah.
He first was Carl Fisher's #1 salesman on Miami Beach.
Right.
But Doc Dammers was Jewish, and they didn't. And Carl Fisher had a lot of restrictions on Jewish people buying property unless you're extremely wealthy, and so George Merrick was able to lure him to Coral Gables because he said he would not have those same restrictions here.
Oh.
And so Doc Dammers was first Carl Fisher's #1 salesman. He became George Merrick's #1 salesman, and he's the man behind all the hijinks and the hoopla, the ballyhoo. Ballyhoo was what they called it back then. When you had the barnstorming airplanes with the wing walkers, and you had the zoo, and you had alligator wrestling, and you had even Rosie the elephant on Miami Beach. That was his idea. He came up with all that stuff, and he was quite a personality. And actually, he was the first mayor of Coral Gables, Doc Dammers.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
That?
Probably
I
not.
I must have known that, but I've since forgotten.
Well, there's a lot of people who really don't know these things, and I mean, why would you? And unless you study the history, you get a fast lesson with this play. Well, you'll learn a lot, and it's about 80 minutes long, so it's nearly an hour and a half. A one-act play. Some plays are 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
But there's no intermission.
No intermission. It's going to be from start to finish. And starting with Lucy coming down, my grandmother coming down on the train, and it ends with people leaving on the train, and then there's a surprise ending after that.
Okay, so people are leaving after the hurricane.
Yeah, a lot of people were leaving. No, sorry. Remember, it wasn't at the Miami No today. It was a very rudimentary place, and they said no, thank you. We want a roof over our heads.
Yeah,
and because of all the embargoes, the building had come to almost a stop, so the jobs were gone. And people were ditching their properties right and left. In fact, one last story that's not in the play is that my grandfather, after everyone was abandoning their properties, he's an attorney. He came down to close land deals. By the way, and his family knew the Fisher family, so he was like the third attorney on Miami Beach. So when people were abandoning their properties, he would go to the courthouse downtown, and he would pay the taxes on the property and take it. And so there was a thought back then that they were going to drain the Everglades, and because Miami Beach was created from dredging.
Yeah, right.
Well,
and they didn't know any better.
It was a sandbar, basically, a very large sandbar, and Carl Fisher turned it into the Miami Beach we know today. There's a lot of dredging going on back then.
Yeah,
and they were dredging up the Everglades, and they said someday this is going to be the most beautiful piece of property. So people were buying land 3 feet under.
Get out.
And so, then my grandfather bought all this abandoned property in the Everglades for pennies, and then just held on to it. And my grandmother joked that she wanted to wallpaper the guest bathroom with them because they're worthless.
Yeah, right.
But in the late 60s and 70s, the federal government created the National Everglades Park and bought back the land for thousands of dollars an acre.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. So it wasn't worthless after all.
It was not worthless after all.
Oh, my goodness.
That's kind of a fun thing. But at that time, my grandfather had been diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Oh, really?
And so my grandmother said, let's take this money and travel the world until you can't travel anymore. And that's what they did. My dad would have preferred that they invested it for the future generations, but they spent every dime going on,
no way.
Right? The steamer ship going, I don't know what they took over there, but like a QE2 kind of a thing. And then I have pictures of them all over Europe, and they traveled until he couldn't travel anymore. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. What a great love story though.
Yeah, it is a good love. It is wonderful.
So how many years were they married?
Oh gosh. They both passed away. Well, she passed away at 69, and then he passed away in his early 70s. Oh, wow. Yeah. So, and then they were married way back then. So you do the math.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah. Whatever. They were old.
But it's long.
50 years.
My mother, everyone knows my mother, Dorothy Thompson, the first and only female mayor of Coral Gables. She'll tell you. Oh, yes.
And
she'll tell you.
Well, we tell everyone because we're very proud of her.
But, my grandmother came down on the railroad by herself. My mother came down by car from upstate New York when she was 20.
Really?
Yes.
And
We
what
drove
brought her
down.
down?
Well,
I never
it's
asked
a
her.
long story, but basically, there's no money for college, and
Okay.
so she wanted to go somewhere sunny, and she was going to go to California. Her brother was out there at that time, but then he left. He fought in the Korean War, and so she and her mother came down to Miami instead.
Right.
And her mother said, "You have 2 weeks to find a job, or else we got to go back home again." And so she found a job working for Florida Power and Light. And yeah, that was her first job.
You are not going to believe it, but our time is up.
Oh, no.
I know. You're going to have to come back. That's all there is to it.
Well, you're saying we have to talk to.
We haven't even, it's just a tip of the iceberg talking to you. But you're just fascinating.
It's been so
and
fun.
Thank you so much for as busy as you are with all that's going on. I really appreciate your taking the time. And I wish you luck. And we've got that event coming up this Sunday.
Yes, come this Sunday. That's going to be a fun
that'll
topic.
be fun. That'll be great. Yeah. So if I can, I'm going to go to that. But I usually have family commitments on Sundays. But we'll see if I can
bring them all.
Out. Yeah, bring them all. There you go. Okay. So again, thank you, South Florida PBS, for being our sponsor. And June, thank you so much for coming. And best of luck on everything. And I look forward to seeing your play.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.